So on January 22nd, there was a hotfix that went through that went and buffed the M13, while at the same time nerfing the M4 and the MP5. After looking at all the different data and what they actually changed, it overall looks like a negligible difference, and for the most part, you're really not going to notice anything changed at all. So for the M13, they said it got a range increase and a small reduction to horizontal recoil, and then small damage increase to boost headshot effectiveness. And when looking at the range increase, it looks like they did buff it by about 5 meters, which in my opinion is negligible. On top of that, the small reduction to horizontal recoil is probably the most noticeable thing they did, considering you can actually feel that and see that within each and every gunfight, basically making the weapon easier to hit your shots, especially since it has a low damage profile that causes you to have to land more shots than pretty much any other weapon in the game, with at least 6 shots to kill if you're not landing those headshots. And then that's going to bring us to the last part, which was a small damage increase to boost headshot effectiveness. What this means is currently, let's say it kills in 4 or 5 and even 6 shots to the body. If you start landing headshots, it's going to reduce the time to kill. They've made it so landing more headshots will actually reduce the shots even further. So instead of bringing it from a 5 down to a 4, now it'd bring it down from a 5 down to a 3 if you manage to land every single bullet. But since the odds of actually landing every bullet to the head are incredibly low and don't happen all that often, I don't think most people will ever notice that there's been a nerf unless they get that one off where it's like, dang, I killed that guy really quick, or I was melted really quick. Odds are they landed every headshot and it was more of a fluke kill. So the class that we'll be showing off in today's video is the Tempest Cyclone Barrel, the Commando Foregrip Under Barrel, the GI Mini Reflex Optic, 60 round mags for the ammunition, and the stippled grip tape for the rear grip. So before the buff, the M13 was arguably the worst rifle in the entire game. Obviously there's some people that would argue and try and dispute, and they'll say, well, if you use it like an SMG and use it in this class setup and use it in hardcore on this specific map, sitting on this specific head glitch, if you have to do all these if, ands, and how this weapon is great, odds are the weapon isn't actually great. At the end of the day, we all know that the M4 is the best weapon in the game. We don't have to argue it. I don't have to try and defend my point if I'm saying the M4 is the best. We all know that it is the best rifle in the game, hands down. Maybe up there with the Ram 7, but that's more of a DLC weapon. But if we're just focusing on the base weapons, the M13 is a horrible weapon in the game, and there's really no reason to ever touch it unless you're going for Damascus camo or you just want to challenge yourself. And to further back up my point, here's a list on codstats.net where you can actually see the global stats for the individual weapons. It shows off the popularity of the weapon, meaning how often it is used on a regular basis compared to the other weapons within the game. It also includes an overall or global KD, as well as accuracy and the headshot percent. So you notice that the M4 is at the top of the list with the MP5 as far as overall popularity goes. As far as KD, the AK-47 has that 1.11, as well as the M4. I just think the AK is a little bit of a higher skill gap weapon, meaning that it requires just a little bit more skill because it has more recoil. So I think good players are kind of inflating that one a little bit. But if we look at the M13, it has a 1.01, meaning that it's barely positive and it tends to lose gunfights against all these other weapons on the list. And the buffs and nerfs they've made in that hotfix will do virtually nothing in changing these particular stats. So I touched on the topics that you probably clicked on this video for. Now I'm going to transition to a gameplay breakdown. If you have enjoyed the video so far, please remember to hit that like button before you click away if you decide to click away. If you're brand new to the channel or just haven't yet subscribed, definitely consider subscribing with notifications on so you'll be able to find your way back to the channel. This part of the rest of the video is pretty much a gameplay breakdown where I take you through my thought process, provide some tips and tricks from real live games, not cutting anything out so you can see all the decisions I make throughout the process, whether I'm running around, whether I'm posting up, whether I'm paying attention to the mini-map, moving based off my teammates, where I choose to spawn, when I call my streaks, all the different various variables on how to actually play the game, so hopefully you can improve as a player. I've touched a lot on the 6v6 playlist recently, and this is the first time I'm actually including Anaya Palace, which since that's back in the rotation, I wanted to give a little bit of tips so you kind of have a better idea on how to play this specific map. So there's a couple different things you got to be aware of when you're playing Ground Wars. Obviously, there's going to be 24 different people on these types of maps. If you go into the larger maps, it's going to be 32 versus 32. Most of the people will be camping in their home flag or camping on one of the flags they own. In this particular case, that tells me that a lot of people are going to be at B. I approach this slowly. You can see that one of my teammates used the cruise missile, and there are some teammates sitting over on A getting engagements there, and I'm trying to push up slowly. I don't want them to really hear me because I don't run dead silence at ground war. I don't think you need it for the most part. A lot of times you're really going to have to worry about ammo. I don't have that problem right now just because I happen to run over the gun. You can see how I kind of creeped up. Guys focused out. My teammate jumped in the building, and I know that the area is clear. So it's kind of one of those efforts where we got to get a little bit more of the map control, position myself in a way that we can actually win these gunfights and the enemies are not prepared. I come back out, snap onto that guy, and one of my least favorite things about this weapon is it is basically the definition of shoot first, die first. If you manage to run up against someone who knows where you're at, you know where they're at, even if you land the first bullet, odds are you're dead because they have an M4. As we saw from the popularity there, we know that the M4 is the most used weapon, meaning that if you're not actually landing all the shots, if you don't catch them off guard, odds are you're losing that gunfight. So you really have to be very cautious about how you move around. Obviously, when I run around with the M4, I ego challenge a ton of stuff because basically I know I'm usually going to land that first shot and I'm basically going to be able to win that gunfight. I'm going to be on target. So with the M4, you could play reckless, you could play a little bit crazy. Same thing with the MP5 because the time to kills are so competitive and at the top of the scale that you know that, hey, you know what, I can ego challenge this even if I'm low health, all those types of things. With the M13, you're not so lucky. So right here, I'm just trying to play the spawn right here. The enemies primarily should be spawning at their home flag, and you can see that they are kind of pushed up, taking D and C, and I'm just kind of peeking out, trying not to give away my position, kind of really just playing for that advanced UAV, and I want to get into that building, push up, and maybe get some spawn kills while I'm at it. So I peek out, seeing if anyone's running out. There are some aerial streaks, and then I'm debating if I want to go ahead and push. I can see that nobody is really in this building, so maybe there are some enemies in there. And that's one thing that looking at where your teammates are can tell you a lot about what's going on the map. You can see that no one was in that building from my team initially, and that there was likely to be a guy in there. So when I pushed into the room, you can see my teammates also pushed, and there happened to be a guy in there. And what I'm doing right now is playing patiently for my streak. And that's sometimes just what you have to do. I do consider this camping. Most people probably consider this particular part of what I'm doing camping, but that is the smart play to do. Because once I get in advance, I can play a little bit more aggressive, to run around. I called in the VTOL right on top of where they're spawning, and now majority of the enemies should be over at A or spawning directly under the VTOL. So right here, there's a little bit of luck involved because I get hit with this nade. I back into the corner. The guy doesn't even see me. I take him out. His teammate didn't notice, so perfect timing there, and I'm able to call on the advance. I see that there's a good amount of them in the spawn. I go ahead and try and peek out really quick to see if I can get a sight line. Turns out that this thing is too much blocking it within the center of the screen, so I decide to push for A. And here is one of the biggest issues in the game when it comes to the minimap not being very large. I can't actually see anyone in my minimap. Look at how small it is. There's 3 people in that building, so that's what I'm really trying to avoid. And then the guy who ends up killing me, he's on the minimap, but he's so far away that he's actually outside of the circle, even though in reality, he's not that far away. So that was just a little bit unfortunate. It looks like the guy was shooting me as I came around. Your screen goes red, white, whatever the case is when you're taking damage. So it makes it pretty difficult to actually see what's going on. I am pushing up into the enemy spawn. I can see where they're at. The guy is using a launcher. For whatever reason, I don't know if people are really on that launcher Damascus grind, but they are really aggressive with these launchers today. When I was actually recording this video, there were so many people in the matches I was playing where they'd shoot you with the launcher, you'd stim, it'd hit you with another launcher. Luckily, I run EOD on all my classes, so I was in a pretty decent spot. Try and land shots there. This is not the gunfight that I'm going to win unless I land the first 2, maybe even 3 bullets, since it is going to be at least 6 shots to kill at that range. Pushing back to the other side of the map because now most of the enemies should be spawning at C. As I approach this, I do notice the guy. I kind of creep over to the side, thinking he didn't notice me. He fired his weapon. I know I'm not going to be able to hit this shot. I'm seeing what the guy's going to do. Most people, 9 times out of 10, do not move from their location. And as I come around this side on the minimap, it looks like the guy's still there. I peek this right side really quick just to make sure I'm not going to get shot from behind. I come around, throw my C4, able to easily take the guy out. A lot of people also run overkill in the game. For whatever reason, they're not confident enough in their gun skill, so they typically run a sniper with an SMG or the M4 with the 7.25. Even though the 7.25 got nerfed, people still continue to run that class setup because at close range, it will be that insta kill the way a shotgun typically is. I come around, take that guy out, And right now it's a little bit tricky where the enemies are, because there should be a bunch in C and then also on the opposite side of the building, because they are also spawning at D. You can see that it looks like B is starting to get captured, so there's a little bit of movement through there. I decide to go ahead and back off, lay prone, thinking the guy's going to re-engage. The guy starts firing his weapon. He doesn't actually run for me. I just decide, screw it, I'm going to go all the way around. And sometimes that's the better play. Just avoid the gunfight. I had no clue where the guy was. The guy had a good idea of exactly where I was. Now I'm posted up behind this pillar. At least it gives me a little bit of coverage. If the person comes on the left, they're not going to know exactly where I am. If the person comes on the right, then I could have got an idea of, hey, you know what, they're going to cross right in front of my sight line. Teammate is on that side, so I decide to watch this left sight line at least until we capture it. Teammate randomly spawns on me, and things are looking good, even though it does look like someone died on the right side. We captured it. We do have some teammates in here. Majority of the enemies should be somewhere near D and E. As you can see, there's a little bit of contesting going on there. So I decide to push out, thinking I could probably pick some people off as they're moving from E to D. And that's kind of what I'm thinking in my mind. I'm thinking, okay, how can I actually approach this? There are people up top. I laser that guy, easy headshot. And then I'm just kind of trying to pay attention, because most of the enemies, again, are on the D and E side. If someone's running ghost, they can easily slip through. But it just all depends on how I position myself and how I can maneuver. For whatever reason, I didn't even notice this guy running through, and I probably would have been able to actually track him down, get a quick easy kill. So that was just a little bit of a mental mistake. And as the guy comes back for that revenge kill, knowing exactly where I am, he ends up kind of coming out. I should have just wide snapped onto him and taken him out. But getting back to the overall play styles, one of the things that a lot of times people don't realize is that when you play ground war, you have to be able to play patient. You have to be able to camp. You have to be able to rush. Pretty much have to develop all these different characteristics, because the map changes and evolves over time, and you have to be able to adapt. A lot of times people are stuck only doing one thing, which is 100% camping or 100% rushing. But as I've talked about in previous videos, I think the better players really know how to change the gears and play to their strengths. Obviously, if you're a very good player, can snap on the shots, have very good reflexes, good accuracy, obviously you can play a little bit more aggressive and less passive, and vice versa. If your skill's a little bit lower, obviously you gotta play a little bit passive, but there are times that you should be able to rush. Take this guy out, jump out, I'm chasing down this next kill, and then some random dude ends up rolling up on me, heading into his own spawn on a quad, which is completely unpredictable. I didn't see the quad on the minimap, I couldn't hear it, and the guy was running ghost. What else can you do in that particular scenario unless just literally be turning around when I'm trying to chase down that kill? So I think that's a bulk of the gameplay. Pretty much there's only a couple ticks left. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, found it helpful in some way. If you did, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're brand new to the channel or just haven't yet subscribed because maybe you forgot. And if you're at this point of the video and haven't yet subscribed, definitely hit the red subscribe button with notifications on so you'll be able to find your way back for more Modern Warfare content. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.